language that it did not speak. And then the AI trained itself how to speak the language and started responding in the language it was being prompted in. And they thought, we don't really know how that happened. And so isn't that weird? That's a little bit weird. Silver crash was planned, they say. Fulton County election evidence and the powers that be showing it off. Trump, I think it's Tulsi Gabbard, or it might be Christine Noem. I can't remember which one it is, but they're posing in front of a picture in front of physical evidence about 2020 election interference and theft. And I find all of this very interesting. I think what we're watching Trump do and the rollout of all of this stuff that we're seeing is the re-election campaign. I think this is the re-election campaign. I think the re-election for midterms is to highlight Trump's success. And I think the cherry on top is going to be an announcement at some point of no income tax before 2026 is done. That's just I don't know. I'm not sure. The Conservative Party of Canada had their convention over the weekend, and there were some interesting positions that were defeated. Pierre Poilievre had his leadership review, and he passed it. And so there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. Donald Trump is worried about China taking away hockey from Canada. And I thought that was hilarious. So I'll show you that. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. Dominion Society of Canada is highlighting this Poilievre clip from his speech. And the first part of the clip sounds great. And then we realize that, he is just a globalist party. A globalist leader of a globalist party. Here we go.
For the last 10 years, Ottawa has told our young people that our history is filled with shame and horror, that we are a post-national country with no core identity, and that our youth will never own homes. But other than that, they should feel great about being united in Canada. All the while, the federal government stomps on Alberta's energy sector and Quebec's jurisdiction. Now, our message to those youth and to all of the people in Alberta and Quebec who are losing hope in our country: you will again have a country that respects your autonomy, is proud of your industries, unites us around our common identity and history, a country that will afford you the hopeful future that you have earned.
A few moments later.
We want a nation where all of us are equal, a nation that is colorblind. We want a nation with no more hyphens, no more group labels. We are all Canadians, Canadians in our heart, Canadians in every single way.
Do you guys know how Japan's dealing with the beginning of the invasion of their island? They're saying no effing way. That's what they're saying. And so this is a very Diefenbaker position to take for Poilievre to take.
For the last 10 years, Ottawa has...
I was saying that he wanted to be, sorry about that. I was saying that he wanted to be a modern Diefenbaker, and Diefenbaker erased the hyphenated Canadian, and he's trying to do it again, except that he's completely missing the cultural decimation that's going on in Canada at this point in time. Danielle Smith is excited. She thinks Pierre Poilievre is going to win the next election, and color me skeptical. I don't know. Melissa says, especially the reason that I'm skeptical is because Alberta is a conservative stronghold. But if Alberta doesn't believe the Conservatives will deliver any kind of difference, then they're not going to show up for that election because they're going to put all of their energy into the separation movement, the separatist movement. And so it's a situation where I'm very skeptical because Alberta and the Conservative Party base might just become its own country and do its own thing. So what are you going to do then, Conservative Party of Canada? Right? So Danielle Smith says Pierre Poilievre's the guy. And I
am proud to work with him, to be a member of this party under his leadership, and I know that he'll lead the Conservatives back to victory in the next election. I am proud to work with...
There we go. So Danielle Smith is excited. Daniel is responding to Max. Max says this Conservative MP voted to allow non-citizens to vote in party nominations. And so he's talking to Mr. Uppal. Here we go.
Mr. Uppal, do you believe that non-citizens should vote in your party's nomination races?
That's the way it is right now.
But you voted to allow it. Why?
So did the entire room, actually.
So, no, but you personally voted to allow it. Why is that? Sorry?
Did I?
Yeah, you voted to allow...
I just voted to allow the status quo. That's right.
So do you feel that non-citizens should be allowed to vote on internal citizen elections?
No, it's just a matter of should they have a membership, right? And it's important that we include people, Canadians of all different backgrounds and different perspectives, to be a part of this large 10 party that's going to be governing sometime soon. Okay?
But only citizens vote in the elections. So why should non-citizens vote to elect the candidate? No? No answer? Okay.
And that's one of the many ways that our elections are rigged. Non-citizens, if they buy a membership, can vote in leadership races. And so they can choose who is leading the country, even though they're not able or eligible to vote in the general election. And that's pretty crazy. And he said we should be open, big tent party that is open to all kinds of Canadians. People who are here illegally are not Canadians. They're not. They're here illegally, just like people who are in the United States illegally are not Americans. They're just there illegally. That's a different thing entirely, in my opinion, right? Don't you think? Ryan says, you can't make this up. CTV on the last paragraph of the article have a link to the Liberals' donation page disguised as a link to donation numbers. So CTV is reporting Polyev survives leadership review with 87% support. And yeah, well, I'm not surprised. Danielle Smith says, my congrats to Pierre Poilievre on his 87.4% leadership win. Alberta will keep backing the common sense conservative ideas that work for our province and our country. But they don't work for the province. They don't at all. Clearly they don't. How can you get your product to market if you can't get a pipeline built to Tidewater? And you've been asking for years, and they've made laws to prevent you from doing that. Bill C-69 says you have to do all sorts of things. Go get another, was it a fern? What was it? And so they're off on a herring. Go get another herring. Whatever. They're off on red herring missions to do nothing ultimately and keep us poor and unable to actually get our product to market. And there's a lot of people who actually do want to buy Canadian LNG and Canadian oil and gas. And if we could get our product to market, then we wouldn't have to pay as much taxes. But instead, well, we'd probably pay higher taxes because they want to send all that money to Ukraine anyway. But if we were run by people who wanted Canada to be fiscally sound, a pipeline with customers waiting is a great idea, and we're not allowed to do it. And so, okay, I don't know why these people think Canada works and why they think conservatives who are not conservative are going to save Canada. I'll never understand. I don't understand. Why do people think this is going to happen? Mr. Sunshine Baby says, anti-gender ideology policy was just defeated at the Conservative Party of Canada AGM annual general meeting. Members in the crowd can be heard cheering in favor of maintaining support for left-wing gender ideology. There's 3 minutes back and forth, and people are arguing for and against, and this is at the conservative thing. And I thought this woman was a liberal. She seemed like a liberal arguing for gender ideology and no conversion therapy. Although the things, it's all kind of muddy, and the reason it's muddy is I think it's being muddied on purpose. I'm not sure who's on which side, and they're arguing basically like we shouldn't vote for this because it's going to prevent doctors from serving kids who are needing gender surgery or something like this. And to be clear, no, I think it's abusive to cut off somebody's parts while lying to them about what's going to happen after they cut off your parts. Like, oof, it's not a good thing. But they're coming at it from that side. But then other people are saying, no, you can't do this because you're preventing people from talking to their kids about this. So the whole thing, I haven't had enough time this morning to go through each thing meticulously and unwind it all. So I think they're conflating issues in order to make it confusing. But fundamentally, it seems like the Conservative Party of Canada is less and less conservative the more time that goes on. Eli says Danielle Smith got a standing ovation at the Conservative Convention after she denounced gender ideology. So that's good, but they're passing policies that it sounds like they're supporting gender ideology. And indeed, Poilievre, there was unanimous consent for Bill C-6, which criminalized talking to kids about who are confused about their gender or something like that, about conversion therapy, and it's all fraught with hate and all sorts of other stuff. And I think that it doesn't actually address any problems. It just makes more problems, which is the hallmark of this government. And it's so frustrating. Here's Donald Trump, and he says, listen, the worst thing might happen. And if China takes over Canada, the first thing they're going to get rid of is ice hockey. And I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. And I don't think this is AI or anything like that. This is Trump in a scrum on Air Force One or an airplane somewhere. I think it's Air Force One, but I could be wrong about that. And he's talking, he's taking questions, and no word of a lie. Ice hockey. Here we go.
And the Canada tariffs, sir, that you talked about, are those coming?
Well, that was on the airplanes. Are you talking about
No, about the China deal that they did.
Oh, if they do a deal with China, yeah, we'll do something very substantial. Because we can look, I have a great relationship with China, President Xi, but we don't want China to take over Canada. And if they make the deal that he's looking to make, China will take over Canada. And the first thing they're going to do, end ice hockey.
And the Canada tariff.
What? First thing they're going to do, not EVs. No. They're going to end ice hockey, according to Donald Trump. Okay, so Canadians, get mad. You know what? You don't want China to end ice hockey because that's a risk. Is it a risk? I don't think it's a risk. I was actually going to look and see if China had hockey teams because I was pretty sure China has hockey teams. I'm sure I've seen China have a hockey team play in the Olympics or something like that. They have hockey. Do they hate hockey? My gosh. Is it like dogs and Muslims? What's going on? Bernie says, this is your Sunday WTF moment. British car makers are paying cash to subsidize Chinese manufacturers because they couldn't sell enough EVs to hit government targets. Under the UK's zero emission vehicles rules, they have to sell increasing numbers or percentage of EVs. If they don't hit those targets, they must buy credits from companies that did sell enough EVs. And guess what? That means British car makers are giving money, cash, to cheap Chinese EV manufacturers. Exactly like the EU, this is the most ridiculous, mind-blowing, self-destructive bollocks policy ever made up. Yeah. Well, Canada says, hold my beer, and we're working on our own version, only this one tanks the deal with the United States. Yay. 401 Desparnich says, London police charge 4 alleged Chinese nationals after armed trespassing into Western University's chemical lab. A search warrant recovered numerous precursor substances and finished high explosives in a nearby London home. Search warrants were also executed in Ottawa and Gatineau. 2 suspects either attended or graduated from the university. All 4 required a Mandarin interpreter. So, yikes, right? I don't think that we take counterterrorism or anything like that very seriously at all. In fact, if something was happening, somebody somewhere would try and blame those Mandarin-speaking Chinese people on Donald Trump if they could, I think. And the focus seems to be at the high levels and of every level of government, really, to stop Donald Trump getting Greenland. If we can stop him getting Greenland, he might not take Canada. And I think they're wrong, but it's weird to watch them put this much effort into stopping Donald Trump from taking Greenland. Here is the Globe and Mail reporting that we're sending the Governor General to Greenland. So just go stand there, Governor General. If Donald Trump shows up, you tell him, no, back off, get your own sandwich. Okay, that's your job. Just trust us, it's important. Globe and Mail says, Governor General Mary Simon heading to Norway, Denmark, and Greenland. I'm sure it's a quick junket, and it'll only cost us a couple of $100,000 in, catered food and alcohol. I wish I was kidding, but that's the track record. Go look it up. Eli says, when she goes on a short junket or something like that, it costs millions and millions of dollars. It's ridiculous. It's so much money, and there's no reason for it at all. She's not, as far as government function goes, I would say useless, personally. Eli says, Conservative MP Rachel Thomas slams Canada's legacy media. This is at the convention. She says, there's a love affair. I'll let her say it. It's only 35 seconds. Here we go.
Look, folks, regardless of whether you want to acknowledge or not, there is a love affair going on between the current media landscape in this country and the Liberal government of Canada, and we need to put a stop to that. Currently, this weekend, there was a summit of all media, and this is a direct quote from the stage. Prime Minister, we have your back just as we know you have ours. This is what is said by the mainstream media just yesterday. Further to that, the Minister of Heritage has said that the CBC is responsible for social cohesion. Folks, this is propaganda at its finest. It needs to stop.
Yeah, the CBC is not responsible for social cohesion. They're trying to wedge people. They're trying to tell people that boys can be girls and all sorts of other crazy, crazy stuff. And that's not part and parcel. That's not conducive to a society that's doing well. If the state broadcaster is lying to children about things like that, it's it's a big red flag. Salma says, this is beyond two-tier policing. This is a deliberate attempt to destroy Canada. If you lose the flag, you lose everything. Your pole is too long. Your flag is too beautiful. You are too peaceful. More importantly, you show your face proudly while waving the Canadian flag. Here in Ottawa, the capital of Canada, on Parliament Hill, nothing can offend the parliamentary police service and Ottawa police like waving the Canadian flag peacefully. I bet you if this dude covered his face with a keffiyeh and a symbol of rape and torture and waved a Hamas flag screaming into a megaphone while chanting against Jews stepping on the Canadian flag, he would have no consequences from Ottawa law enforcement. So this guy with the large flag gets arrested because his pole is too long. And so my response would be, you're darn right my pole is too long, buddy. So it's one of those things, and we are being governed by people who are using police powers to crack down on anybody who is pushing back on the people who have taken over our government. And that's notable. That's scary. I don't think that that's a good place to be. If you think that you live in a free society, I think the actions of the police and other quote, peacekeeping people in our society should tell you there's something else going on here. Andrew Lawton says, I'm glad the Justice Committee is finally able to tackle the bail crisis. Federal Department of Justice officials confirm the system is not working. Yeah, this is Andrew Lawton kind of going through it. The first minute and a half's pretty good. We'll watch it. Here we go.
Long overdue that we get to try to fix some of the problems with the broken Liberal bail system, so I appreciate your assistance in this. Let me ask you, Ms. Moore, you had said earlier nobody can automatically be denied bail. I understood you correctly. That was what you said?
Under the Charter, according to the Charter jurisprudence.
So when we talk about a rampant repeat offender, a prolific offender, as police say, someone who has been convicted multiple times over, is terrorizing communities, you're of the view, or this government is of the view, that we cannot make bail denial automatic.
I think what I would say on that, thank you for the question, is the criminal code is very clear that there are 3 grounds for detention, and if those grounds of detention are present, as you know, the judge should order detention. That is the foundation of our bail system. So to speak to your specific example, where there is a public safety concern and where the evidence presented to the bail court demonstrates that there is a public safety concern, the law mandates their detention.
But we have seen prolific offenders, as police call them, given bail time and time again. So clearly something is not working in this system. We had proposed, the Conservatives did a 3 strikes you're out approach to this, where people who have repeatedly committed these offenses over and over again would be denied bail. Is that something that was ever considered when Bill C-14 was being drafted?
Thank you for the question. Certainly, I think I would say that when we are supporting a government in the development of law reform, we look at all options. So 3 strikes laws, we're familiar with them in the United States, although it's a different context in the United States, more applicable in the sentencing context. We're aware of some of the proposals of the Conservative Party in this respect. Yes, we have given consideration to those as part of the general advice we would give to the government.
And I think that's important context. You're not the decision makers, but it's safe to say then that because you consider that the government that crafted and tabled the bill specifically did not think that you should be kept behind bars if you had broken the law and been convicted 3 times. They did not take that suggestion.
Well, certainly, I mean, the bill before you is a reflection of what the government believed was the right response to strengthening the bail system.
And so we'll just leave it there. This is their response, this bill in front of you. So we're not doing the 3 strike thing. We're doing something else. So that's interesting. I think.
Have you seen the
And we'll see how it all turns out. Here's Andrew Lawton again being asked, what do you think about Alberta independence? And he says, I'm from Ontario. So good for him for recusing himself from saying what Alberta should do. And again, I'm from Ontario too, and I often say I want Alberta to do what they want to do. I want them to be self-governed. I want them to be able to have a responsive popular political class, leadership class that will listen to their constituents. And I don't think anybody in Canada has that right now, even though they pretend to, they don't. Here's Andrew Lawton.
So we've seen the Alberta separation movement grow quickly with thousands of Albertans lining up to sign the petition. Given how many people are interested, do you believe that this is a legitimate option for the province?
I'm an Ontario MP. I think the last thing Western Canadians want is someone from Ontario telling them how to engage with politics. I'm here at this convention because I think we need to save Canada from, more of what we've seen over the last 10 years of Liberal government. And I think Pierre Poilievre is the leader for that. He's a guy from Alberta. He understands the problem and the reasons why people in Western Canada are frustrated. But I think we need to unlock our resource sector, and that's something that doesn't just benefit people in the West, but across the country.
What are your thoughts on Mark Carney cozying up to China, even though he said previously that they're our biggest threat?
Well, it's another flip-flop. I mean, Mark Carney promised Canadians that he would get a deal with the United States. He did not say that he was going to instead start making deals with dictators in Qatar and China. So I think we need to be very concerned about that. And even what he's promised on bringing in 50,000 Chinese-made electric vehicles, that isn't just an economic threat to Canada, but that's a security threat. So
Yep. So what's going to happen with that? Great question. So we'll see. We'll see how it all works out. GM Forbes says, LOL, this will cost upwards of $2 trillion. Where's the money coming from? Carney's saying we're going to double our electricity grid? Double the size of our electricity grid. No, we're not. Nope. This is 2 billion trees. Okay, it's not going to happen.
In the coming weeks, the federal government will release a draft, to be clear, a draft of our national electricity strategy, a strategy designed to complement provincial and territorial leadership. Our objective is to more than double the size of Canada's electricity grid, increase Canada's energy advantage, and deliver cleaner, more reliable, and more affordable power for Canadians. In the coming weeks,
cleaner and more reliable and more affordable. I doubt it. I doubt it completely. Steve says BC's finance minister says the upcoming budget is going to be so ugly that she's going to be the least popular person in the province for a while. Even the NDP admit they're sinking the province. Yeah, so the budget is coming, and BC used to be a province with very, very good financial books. Everything was very, very good. They had laws talking about they weren't allowed to run deficits, all sorts of stuff. And it was really strong, a really, really strong province. And now, not. And what happened? Fraud. And people have known for a long time. Blacklock's reporter says feds hire more than 800 foreign students a year while lamenting economic shocks facing jobless Canadian students. TBS Canada says managers were supposed to hire Canadians first. What? They have incentives to hire people who are foreign. They have incentives to hire and checkbox people who are gay or people who are black or brown or not white, and especially not male. And white and male? No way. And that's damaging. Why would you have a government that hates its citizens like that? Why would you do that? It's incredible. Here is another one. 880, they're responding to themselves. So 889 foreign students hired by the Government of Canada in 2024, tour guides and gift shop assistants at federal museums, researchers at CBC, kitchen staff at state and stagehands at Canada's NAC, clerks and IT staff at Canada Revenue Agency. NRC CNR hired 135 students, National Research Council. And CMHC, the Mortgage and Housing Corporation, hired 30 foreign students. TBS Canada, the Public Service Employment Act gives preference to eligible veterans first, then Canadian citizens and permanent residents for all external advertised appointments, provided that merit is met. Jobless rate for Canadian students increased after 2023 order allowing 1 million foreign students unlimited access to the workforce. So we have a government that is creating laws that allow affirmative action for foreign students and have affirmative action that prevents certain groups from being considered for employment. And that's Why would you have a government that does that? That's incredible. Here's Maxime Bernier, and he says, a nation must be based on a sense of belonging, of participating in a common national project, and of sharing the same values. In a free society, immigrants have the right to cherish and maintain their cultural heritage. However, the vast majority of Canadians rightly expect them to learn about our history and culture, master one of our official languages, and adopt widely shared Canadian values. But this is not the case for the Liberals and fake Conservatives who promote multiculturalism and pander to ethnic groups. This approach encourages immigrants to retain the values and culture of their country of origin instead of integrating into Canadian society and adopting Canadian values and culture. Multiculturalism is based on the idea that every culture is equal, and that is simply not the case. It's a failed experiment that does not make our society stronger. On the contrary, it encourages immigrants to live in ethnic and religious ghettos, which prevent their proper integration into our society and culture. It imports foreign conflicts, values, and attitudes that are incompatible with our own. This lowers our sense of trust and security and undermines our social cohesion and national identity. This is why you see posts asking young people from immigrant families to be proud of their ethnic and religious group instead of being proud to be Canadian. It's time to repeal the Multiculturalism Act, eliminate all funding that promotes multiculturalism, and instead emphasize the integration of immigrants into Canadian society. See our policy on Canadian identity here. And so Parmeet Singh Bopari, who I guess is an MP, says, hate has no home in Alberta because this home belongs to all of us. Every culture, every language, every faith, this province is as much yours as everyone else's. Especially to all young people, be proud of who you are, your culture, your faith, language, and the story your family carries. Walk with your head held high. So this is a strange message. This province is as much yours as anyone else's? What the heck does that mean? Like, what if, like, a bunch of Khalistanis showed up and they said, well, if this province is mine as much as it is yours, then I want it to be a Khalistani province, and so it's mine as much as it is yours. So there you go. Right? Like, what happens if people show up and take you at your word for that? Because that's not what I don't think that's not what people actually want. Right? And so there is an expectation. You come here, you bend to our culture. You don't demand we bend to yours. And now we're being told we don't even have a culture. And I think that's false. Here's Essex. This is happening in the United Kingdom. We'll just go around because this is happening in Canada too. They decided that they couldn't have encampments downtown Guelph, but they could have them in parks. And I said, not in my park. And so this is happening everywhere. This is England.
So guys, this is a park just off the Dudley Road in Birmingham by Winston Green. This is a children's park. Have a look at this. Don't forget guys, don't forget to pay your clean air zone, yeah? Yeah? And your council tax, just pay your council tax. You know, for people to come and dump all the rubbish. Look at this. This is a child's park.
What an absolute disgrace we are in Great Britain. Birmingham, our second city, is an absolute shithole. Some areas are completely overrun with rubbish everywhere. The local council are bankrupt. The government are not interested in the slightest in doing anything about it. The local residents have taken to just dumping their shit wherever they please. No.
And it happens here in Canada too. And people try and push back against it, but it's evidence that people are not working together in a cohesive society. A nation needs more than people who hate each other and live as neighbors. You need more than that. Viktor Orban says families is one man and one woman and their children. That's how a nation is sustained and how its future is secured. Other forms of coexistence are free to exist, but they do not serve the same purpose. Let us not confuse the two. I don't think he's wrong. Riley says, a worrying view inside of Canada's immigration department. Apparently, this is from the Toronto Star article, Canada's immigration backlogs and processing times grow a year after job cuts. They let go of all the administrative staff who knew what they were doing, wrote one respondent. Now we're tasked to figure everything out, do admin work plus our own work with no guidance. There's no communication, noted another. No one even knows what's going on, but you better hit your targets. Now we are so behind that the client services is out the door. Office morale has gone down, stress has gone up, and sick days are being taken more just to try and cope with all of the constant and unsuccessful changes. CEIU and the department CEIU said that the department has recently hired and started offering overtime in some offices to make targets. And is that going to help? Is that going to fix the whole problem? I don't think so. I don't. Bark says, let's talk about silver. Silver's a big story still. And Bark says, just got off the phone with a friend in Washington, D.C. Now take all of this with a grain of salt. Anybody can write on Twitter that they got off a phone call with their friend in D.C. Okay, so just take it with a grain of salt. But still, also, the whole story is a mosaic of everything that was happening in the last week. And this is something to think about, consider. Anyway, they say, just got off the phone with a friend in D.C. with high-level clearance at the Fed. Today's gold and silver crash was much worse than we initially thought. He confirmed at least one bank is insolvent, not just underwater, completely liquidated. He hasn't seen anything like this since 2008. The situation is 100 times deeper than anyone can imagine. And now the markets are closed. Most people are heading into the weekend having no idea what's waiting for them on Monday. But we're about to find out. We're all about to find out. So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. And Serenity says 5 major banks were criminally charged for manipulating the silver markets. These fines totaled $1.2 billion for manipulation of silver markets through spoofing and price rigging. Silver crashed 28% on Friday, triggering trillions of losses. Here were the charges. JP Morgan, $920 million, 2020. And so the charges go back to 1999 to 2014 rigging. I don't know when these charges were laid, but JP Morgan in 2020 was agreed to a settlement of $920 million. JP Morgan admitted wrongdoing for market manipulation of silver to the Department of Justice, the U.S. Department of Justice. Scotiabank, you're richer than you think in silver. $127 million in 2020, U.S. Department of Justice, fraudulent and manipulative trading practices in the markets for silver. HSBC, $76 million, 2018 to 2023. CFTC enforcement for 2011 to 2020, spoofing. Deutsche Bank, $75 million for 2016 to 2021, silver fixed settlement, and CFTC actions for 1999 to 2014 rigging. Morgan Stanley, $1.5 million, 2019. CFTC civil penalty for 2013-14 spoofing. So Navur Bawa was the one who was reporting this. Between 2008 and 2016, 5 of these major banks systemically manipulated precious metal markets through spoofing, price rigging, and benchmark manipulation. Regulators caught them. Fines and convictions spanned 2016 to 25. This was concrete evidence of market manipulation of silver historically that was swept under the rug. And it's possible markets are witnessing it again with the current silver crash of 26. So interesting. We're in historic territory, and we'll see where it goes. I can't predict it. If I could predict it, I'd have a lot more silver. I promise you that. Just Dario says, if you look carefully into the last COMEX report, JP Morgan closed its silver shorts exactly at the very bottom of the price crash, and from there it all started to come back up. This isn't a coincidence. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is the proof the whole Friday crash was planned. So Just Dario says, breaking 2,514 silver February 26 futures contracts have been issued delivery notices and all accepted for delivery already at the COMEX. That's 12.5 million ounces right away in usually low delivery month. So I don't know what's going on, but we'll see, I guess, or maybe we won't. Prometheus Action says, Trump versus Wall Street. Kevin Warsh just declared regime change at the Fed. Jameson Greer invoked Hamilton at Davos. 18 trillion flowing to Main Street. The Republican New Deal isn't a slogan. It's happening. The globalists are terrified. Trump was talking about a New Deal, much better than FDR's New Deal, which was communist. And so we'll see. These guys are good. I generally like the things that they put out. I haven't watched this yet because I haven't had any time this morning. I've been busy. Apologies, but I haven't watched this, but it's on my list of things to watch because I think she's got good insight. And I haven't seen anything that I've thought you're totally out to lunch. So we'll see though. Here is Google CEO says they don't know how their AI works after it started doing things it wasn't programmed to do. And this is Bengali language. They started prompting it in Bengali. And I mean, like, if you're doing an experiment, then okay, like, cool. But like, you should have some hypothesis. You should have some idea of how this works. I mean, I have a hypothesis. I probably looked it up and was like, okay, I want to say this. Like, anyway, here we go.
AI systems are teaching themselves skills that they weren't expected to have. How this happens is not well understood. For example,
if you prompt an AI in a language that it doesn't know, do you expect it to say, I'm sorry, I don't know that language? Or do you expect it to like get an English, like first, find out what the language is. Second, get a language that you understand, translation dictionary. Third, read the translation dictionary. And because you're an AI, you can do that relatively quickly. And then 4, start speaking in Bengali to these people who are prompting you in Bengali. I don't think this is all that far off. Like, you programmed it to do this, guys.
One Google AI program adapted on its own after it was prompted in the language of Bangladesh, which it was not trained to know.
We discovered that with very few amounts of prompting in Bengali, it can now translate all of Bengali. So now all of a sudden, we now have a research effort where we're now trying to get to 1,000 languages.
There is an aspect of this which we call, all of us in the field call it as a black box. You don't.
It's not just your field, buddy.
Fully understand. And you can't quite tell why it said this or why it got wrong. We have some ideas, and our ability to understand this gets better over time. But that's where the state of the art is.
You don't fully understand how it works, and yet you've turned it loose on society?
Yeah, let me put it this way. I don't think we fully understand how a human mind works either.
What? Hold on a second. The AI that you built in your lab is different than a human mind. And like unleashing this AI mind that you built in your lab on the world is different than letting a human walk around the world because, you know, we kind of own the place and stuff. So that's weird. That's a weird thing to say, right? We don't understand how humans work. Yes, but that wasn't the question. You don't know how this thing works? You're the guy who should know that. Bill says, Supreme Court just handed Trump a massive 5-4 ruling unleashing his wartime powers for huge gang deportations. In a stunning 5-4 ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court has granted President Trump broad wartime authority under the 1798 Alien Enemies Act. Breaking news dropping like thunder. This means the Tren de Agua thugs get shipped straight to El Salvador's monster prison. No more games. Real enforcement hitting violent gangs hard and making streets safer for American families. Maybe. That's interesting. And then Trump put this out yesterday. He says, I've instructed the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, that under no circumstances are we going to participate in various poorly run Democrat cities with regard to their protests and or riots unless and until they ask us for help. We will, however, guard, and very powerfully so, any and all federal buildings that are being attacked by these highly paid lunatics, agitators, and insurrectionists. Please be aware that I have instructed ICE and our Border Patrol to be very forceful in this protection of federal government property. There will be no spitting in the faces of our officers. There will be no punching or kicking the headlights of our cars. There will be no rock or brick throwing at our vehicles or our patriot warriors. If there is, those people will suffer an equal or more consequence. In the meantime, by a copy of this statement, I'm informing local governments, as I did in Los Angeles when they were rioting at the end of the Biden term, that you must protect your own state and local property. In addition, it is your obligation to also protect our federal property, buildings, parks, and everything else. We are there to protect federal property only as a backup. In that it is local and state responsibility to do so. Last night in Eugene, Oregon, these criminals broke into a federal building and did great damage, also scaring and harassing the hardworking employees. Local police did nothing in order to stop it. We will not let that happen anymore. If local governments are unable to handle the insurrectionists, agitators, and anarchists, we will immediately go to the location where such help is requested and take care of the situation very easily and methodically, just as we did in the Los Angeles riots 1 year ago when the police chief said that we couldn't have done it without the help of the federal government. Therefore, to all complaining local governments, governors, and mayors, let us know when you're ready, and we will be there. But before you do so, you must use the word please. Remember that I stated in the strongest of language to beware ICE, Border Patrol if necessary. Our military will be extremely powerful and tough in the protection of our federal property. We will not allow our courthouses, federal buildings, or anything else under our protection to be damaged in any way, shape, or form. I was elected on a policy of border control, which has now been perfected, national security and law and order. That's what America wants, and that's what America is getting. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Trump. So there you go. Trump is dropping the hammer. He says, Wall Street Ape says, you won't see this reported in the media. American shows the Minnesota ICE rioters broke into everyone's vehicles. He walks and shows over 60 vehicles had their windows broken into by rioters in downtown Minneapolis. They broke into every single window. Are you kidding me? So all these cars.
Fucking window. Are you fucking...
He's very upset. And so, yeah, pretty wild stuff going on there. Nick Shirley is in California, and he's going to daycares, and it's the same thing as what he saw in Minnesota. All of the daycares that are getting millions of dollars in state funding don't have any kids. That's weird, right? Lady says, Nick Shirley exposes California ghost daycares. Journalist Nick Shirley and activist Amy Richter uncover licensed daycares claiming 8 to 28 kids but empty during surprise inspections. Multiple San Diego cases found in public Cal HHS records in under an hour. Potential billions wasted in subsidies. Potential. Yeah, I think that billions is probably low, guys. And how many years does this go back? How many decades does this go back? Because it's not just a couple of years. Brian says, so is this Kristi Noem? Tulsi Gabbard. This is Tulsi Gabbard. And Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, outside of the Fulton County Election Hub and Operations Center after the FBI executed a search warrant there in relation to the 2020 election on January 28th. So I think that Brian is right. He says she deliberately let the photographers see her there. She's posing in front of the ballot boxes loaded in the truck for the cameras, right? She wants certain people out there to know she has the crude physical evidence in her possession. Fulton County, Maricopa County, Delaware County, Runebeck. Paper boxes are traceable when you have the best forensics of multiple law enforcement intelligence agencies at your disposal. What did the elites lose control of over the past year? So it's very, very interesting to see all of this stack up. I think this is the re-election campaign. I think they're going to actually try and throw the book at these people, and I think they're going to try and make a big show out of it, and I think it's all going to be tied up within the re-election campaign. Trump is going to be arm's length. It's not going to be Trump leading the charge on this. It's the people that he's already put in charge leading the charge on this. But I think he's going to utilize it in his speeches. I think he's going to do rallies, and I think the rallies are going to be kind of like celebration rallies. But we'll see. We'll see. I've been wrong before. Trump is a Art of the Deal, Art of War guy. He wrote Art of the Deal based on Art of War. And he doesn't do stuff like this unless he's confident that he's got a winning hand and it beats their hand. And he's been accurate for a lot of his plays. He doesn't always get it right, but he's been accurate. So I think this is more of that. Anyway, I did a long show today because I have no time. I'm going to go have a quick lunch, and then I'm going to come back and have kitchen table talk. So it's going to be super fun. So come back in like 20 minutes, half an hour, and we should be doing kitchen table talk with everybody. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want the whole show, you'll get the whole show today. But if you want the whole show regularly, go over to